we go.
I'm Nathaniel Wood. I'm a London UFC Bantamweight fighter, and I'm training at Team Titan and Raptors Strikeforce.
Cool. Thanks for joining us today, for giving some of your time. Just watching you training, so I know you want to get off soon. But obviously, you just fought in the UFC, so I'm sure every British UFC star at the moment wants to know when you're fighting next.
You know, that'd be a good guess, because at the moment I still don't know. You know, I believe next year, usually around March, February, they do a London card.
Yeah.
I haven't got confirmation of that, but you know, if that's happening, then you know, you best believe I'll be on that. So I'm just hoping to get one more this year, but you know, it's every week that goes is another show out of the way, so I'm just waiting by the phone and hoping I'll get a call soon.
Yeah, is there any reason why you can't get out at the end of the year? Because especially at your stage of the career, you want to be fighting 2-3 times a year, and with the UFC kind of booming at the moment, it's just I would have thought they would have got you back out.
Yeah, I did get an offer a while back after my fight, but it was too short notice. I would never have made the weight. You know, that's the problem for me. I'm always fit. I'm always in fighting shape. I could fight on Saturday if I wanted, but for me, I have to get the weight down. So usually, you know, I need at least 5 weeks sort of notice to get it down. For me to maintain weight around, to be able to take a fight 2 weeks out, you know, it's too hard. It's a lot of hard work. So you know, I kind of need a bit of a heads up when I'm fighting to get that weight near 61 kilos.
No, fair enough. All right, we'll come back to that in a second. Just a bit about know a little bit about yourself. Obviously, hardcore UFC or MMA fans would probably know you, but let's just talk about how did you get into MMA? What age were you? And
well, originally, you know, my dad, he's always done martial arts. He's done everything. You know, he's a black belt in karate, black belt in judo. You know, the list will go on. So I've always been a big fan of martial arts. I've always watched the UFC, etc. But it was when I actually left school. I was 16 and I started carpentry at college. And I was working on a building site, 2 days off. And I thought to myself, man, I do not want to be doing this for the rest of my life. I thought, you know what, I've always wanted to do a sport for a living. But pretty much at the age of 16, if you're not already kind of professional in whatever sport you're doing, it's going to be hard. So I was watching the UFC one day, and I think it's Demetrius Johnson was saying that he didn't start the sport until he was 19, I believe. And I thought, you know, I'm 16, why not give this a shot? And I went along with my dad the next day, and you know, I was like a duck to water. And every week I was training every day, and then before I knew it, you know, quit my job, training twice a day, 3 times a day, and literally the rest is history.
So before 16, you never entered?
No, I did about a year's worth of kickboxing when I was about 10 or 11, just because my old man said, you know, go and learn how to fight, basically. But then I quit that because I was playing football a lot of the time, and then the times clashed. So I thought, you know what, football is what I'd rather play. So I went along, done that, and then, you know, had nothing until 16.
Okay. Just to cut that bit. So who's your team?
Chelsea.
Chelsea. Oh, okay. We might have to cut the interview. No, I'm joking. So back to what you were saying about you got into the gym. So what was a martial art you started to learn?
Pretty much, I just went straight into MMA. My dad was training at a jiu-jitsu gym at the time, so I went along and started with Brazilian jiu-jitsu. But pretty much, you know, the next day I was in the garden hitting the bag. My dad was doing pads with me, and even to this day, you know, my dad's always in my corner. He's one of my head coaches. So, you know, I've kind of been spoiled with coaches. I've always had someone there for pads. You know, I know a lot of fighters, they don't have the people that they necessarily need around them. So for me to have someone like my dad around me all the time is, you know, I've got a head start there. So, yeah, you know, I'd say I've always been spoiled. I've always had someone there for me. And I would say the training I've had from the age of 16 is quality training. Whereas I think a lot of fighters that started younger, they might not be getting the right training that they need, whereas I've had 100% attention given to me from the get-go.
It's interesting you say about your dad training you, because we've seen it a little bit more nowadays. You know, obviously Wonder Boy, for instance, for example, always has his dad as his head coach. So when you made that transition from potentially being a carpenter into MMA, you had the full support of your family
Exactly.
from that. Was that a bit of a relief, or, you know, because I've seen interviews before where fighters have said their family don't want them going into the sport, but with you it's kind of the opposite, isn't it, really?
Yeah, so my dad's never once pushed me into it. You know, I think he would rather me be a businessman and be not getting punched in the head for a living right now. but he's always supported me 100%. You know, to have him as a coach, I can trust him 100% because all he's interested in is me. He's not earning any money off me, you know, he's not there just to get 50 quid for an hour session or whatever. So anything he says to me, I know he's only got my best interest at heart. You know, if he tells me you're looking shit in training, then I'll take what he says. But you know, I'm fortunate enough, as you say, my parents always supported me. At the time, when I was 16, I was doing a bit of work, so I was paying a little bit of rent. But even with that, my dad said, don't pay me rent, just use that for the gym costs and whatnot. So to have them in my corner and supporting me, you know, it's been a great help. Whereas I know a lot of fighters, you know, their parents aren't as supportive as mine could be.
Oh, absolutely. Let's talk about your amateur career. So, what age did you have your first amateur fight?
My first amateur fight, I believe, was 18, just as I turned 18.
So that was from 16, so within 2 years you had your first amateur fight.
Whereas a lot of fighters, I think, fight sooner, but I wanted to make sure that when I was ready, you know.
And was that your dad basically saying, right, you're not ready yet, or was that more you? Or?
No, it was just, I think, at the time, there wasn't as many shows. So it was just training, you know, and obviously in my head I'm thinking I'm going to be UFC champion when I'm 26, 27. So I wasn't even thinking about the amateur fights as such. And then when I turned 18, my coach at the time just started his own show, his own fight promotion, and said, do you want to fight? And literally took it on a few weeks' notice, won that, and had 5 amateur fights in total, won all of them. Yeah. And then eventually went pro at 19. So I only did amateur for about a year.
So the transition from amateur to pro, tell me a little bit about that.
So in amateur we have, well now you have bigger gloves, you have 8-ounce gloves instead of 4, but at the time I was fighting in 4. Semi-pro amateur is only 3-minute rounds, whereas pro is 5. Also semi-pro you can't throw elbows, knees to the head, and there's certain submissions you can't do.
Is that hard though, when you're training? When you've been training for like, you know, last 2 years, you're doing certain moves and then suddenly you can't do it.
Luckily for me, the show that I was on back in the day, there wasn't actually as many rules, so I could steal knee to the head. It was 4-ounce gloves, so it was kind of pro rules, but semi-pro. Also, obviously, when you're semi-pro, the record is separate to your pro record. So, you know, the idea was it's kind of apprenticeship. And then when you go pro, you know, it's to look after your record and build up, get to the UFC.
So your first pro fight, I forgot the name. I was watching it earlier. What was the name?
Damo Whedon.
Yeah. Talk to me about like the build up, like leading up to it. You know, how did you feel? Was it like nerves? Was it excitement? I mean, this is, you know, it's going to be probably recorded and what have you.
I was confident, but it was a weird one because the guy that I was fighting for my pro debut, I remember seeing him a few years back fighting on a show, thinking, I wouldn't want to fight that guy. You know, he looked the part. I was walking to the toilets and he came out with his wraps on and he had this big beard and, you know, he was looking pretty jacked, and I thought, man, that looks like a scary dude at my weight. So, you know, I was quite pumped to be fighting him. And at the time I was told his record, I think, was like 2 fights pro. And then on the day I looked it up and I saw another account saying that he's actually had 6 pro fights. So that was a little bit of a, oh shit, you know, I could be in trouble here, but you know, I went in there, got the win and done it in TKO style.
And you have your family and friends?
Yeah, it was a local one, it was in Epsom, so you know, I had to fill the arena out with friends and family.
What was that like, fighting in front of your friends? Is it good having them there, or was it a bit more pressure?
At the time, I'd say it's a little bit more pressure, but now I need that pressure. You know, pressure makes diamonds, and you know, when I've got more support, more crowd there, I feel invincible now. Whereas, you know, some of the shows when there's, you know, I've travelled far away, I haven't sold as many tickets, you know, I find that I'm not firing on all cylinders. You know, I need that pressure, I need them nerves of people being there to perform the best.
So, you've had, obviously you've been in the UCMA, you think was, BAMA. Obviously BAMA's a relatively big organisation. Talk to me a little bit about, you know, signing for them. How did that come about?
At the time, I think it was just after I had a Cage Warriors fight. I got 2 offers, one from one promotion, one from BAMA. And at the time, my manager just said, you know, the BAMA contract looks like it's got more potential for you fighting for the title. You know, they kind of had a plan that you fight this guy, win that, you fight this guy, fight for the title. Whereas the other promotion, you know, it was a little bit hit and miss on what was happening. But you know, Bama were a good promotion, but my only losses are on Bama, so you know, I kind of hold them to that.
I was going to ask you about that. Obviously, I feel that these days, especially boxing and certain parts of MMA, that fighters don't want to lose the L. When you had your first loss, how did that make you feel? I mean, was it more determined? Was it, you know, all right, I've got to change stuff up and what have you? Yeah,
a loss, you learn from it. You know, when you get a win, you just come away, you got the win and that's it. When you have your first loss, you learn from it and you think, okay, I'm not as invincible as I thought. So, you know, I kind of wish that I lost when I was semi-pro. That's what I say to a lot of the guys now who fight amateur. You know, I say, if you take a loss in amateur, it's a blessing in disguise, because when you go pro, that's gone, that doesn't exist. Unfortunately, you know, I won all my semi-pro fights and my lessons came in my pro days. But, you know, until you've had that loss, you never quite have the full hunger that you get once you lose. You know, once you've felt that loss and you feel that embarrassment and let down as such, you know, you don't want it happening again. So now, you know, when I come to training, I'm putting 100% in all the time, so I don't get that loss again.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Cage Warriors then. So you signed for Cage Warriors. Again, Cage Warriors is pretty big. It's shown on BT Sport, UFC Fight Pass. What was that like, being signed by Cage Warriors?
That was, you know, other than some of the UFC, that was my best mixed martial arts competition memories. You know, Cage Warriors is a huge promotion. They look after their fighters, you know, and the fights I had on there were crazy. You know, I got the offer to fight Von Lee, who at the time was a UFC veteran. You know, and I was buzzing for that. I was like, right, let's do it. Beat him TKO style in Liverpool, that was. And then had 3 fights after that for Cage Warriors, all in London, all for a title.
At the O2, wasn't it?
At the O2, yeah. I think I sold 300 something tickets every time and just filled it out with friends and family. And those are probably the best memories I have so far of my career.
And obviously you went on to win the Bantamweight title against, it was Marco.
Yep. Covered.
Yeah. Talk to me about that. I mean, obviously you had a bit of a run, and then I assume they put it to you that you've been offered the title fight. How did that make you feel?
Buzzing. You know, I kind of already knew that if I'd beaten Von Lee, I was getting that title shot, so I was kind of already aware of it. But you know, to actually get it and then win the title and be classed as a world champion, you know, it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. There was one fight I did want to talk to you about, Josh Reed. I was watching it again this morning. It was an absolute war in the first round. There was some talk afterwards about, like, you know, maybe the fight should have been stopped and what have you. What was your thoughts on?
For me, obviously you can say it being biased, but I don't think the ref should have stopped it at any point for me, because I came back and won. So if he had stopped it, you know, that would have taken that away. Plus, you know, the whole time he was kind of throwing his shots, a lot, other than the first one that he caught me with, a lot of them were just hitting my gloves.
At one point you looked like you were quite dazed, but you're still kind of covering up.
The first shot he threw, I'll give it to him, that hit me, and I was like, oh my god, what was that? Rocked me, doing the chicken dance. Yeah. Then the rest of the shots, it was just like someone was shaking me. You know, I stumbled back at one point. I thought the cage was behind me. It wasn't, and then stumbled back. So it looked, I think, a lot worse.
I thought the ref was literally, I think, about to step in, and then suddenly you just threw a shot.
That's the thing with MMA. You know, the ref says you've got to defend yourself or you've got to fight back. Every time the ref said fight back, I threw something. Whereas when it was me and him, he wasn't throwing anything back. He was just standing there. So, you know, I don't know. Part of me wishes that the ref left it 5 more seconds so that I could have proved that, you know, that was supposed to be stopped. But at the end of the day, I got the win, and you know, that's what I'm happy with.
What a great win it was. Would you have rematched him?
If that's what Cage Warriors would have offered, 100%. Yep.
Okay, so the next thing, you defended a bout against Luca again. Can't pronounce the name. And you know, that was your last time in Cage Warriors before you signed for UFC. But just talk to me a little bit about that one, because that was another great finish.
Well, I remember going into that one thinking, how do I outdo the last one? You know, to have an absolute war with Josh Reed on the one before, to have that crowd there, I thought, you know, I can't do any better than that. So to come out there and get a knockout like I did in 40 seconds, you know, to completely KO him, you know, that was just the proof that, you know, I was ready for the UFC. You know, and I just looked up at the crowd. I remember seeing everyone there, and they were chanting UFC, UFC. You know, and that was an incredible feeling.
See, for me, I remember that because on social media you were trending. How does that feel, being trending on Twitter?
Mate, honestly, it's surreal. You know, it really is. As I say as well, every Cage Warriors fight, you know, I thought I can't outdo the last one, and every one I did. You know, every one I had just as much support or more than the last one. And I generally feel like the people that were there shared the win with me. You know, sometimes a lot of people buy a ticket and they're just there to watch a few fights, but I honestly felt like those people were in there with me. So, you know, to come out, get the win like I did, to come out unscratched as well, then to be able to fight 9 weeks later, that was, you know,
it's a bit of a cliche, but the British fans, fight fans, are just, they're like nothing else, aren't they?
Yeah.
The support, you've pretty much answered it, but do you draw on that support? You know, when you're doing your ring entrance and you know, you've got the crowd cheering, you know, if you're taking a shot, you know, and then you hear the crowd, does that give you that extra 10%?
100%. When I was there at Cage Warriors in the daytime to do the medicals, I remember looking at my opponent, and he's from Italy. I remember thinking, he looks nervous now. And I was thinking, as soon as he comes out later, I know for a fact he's lost before he even gets in there. And I remember just coming out, and you know, I don't hope that they do it, but I think he got some stick on the way out. And I remember going into the cage and could just see that he didn't want to be there. You know, and when that crowd was cheering me, you know, he didn't want to be in there, and you know, obviously I got the job done nice and quick. So
I think crowds make a massive difference. I mean, earlier in the year, watching Darren Till against Wonderboy, I kind of felt like Wonderboy didn't realise, like, the crowd in Liverpool was just, you know, and it kind of felt that obviously all the problems that Darren had, like with the weight cuts, it just felt like that crowd just gave him that extra buzz.
Yeah, it does. It really does. You know, if you don't get me wrong, a few cheers here and there, not much difference. But when you've got a whole arena on their feet for you, that's when you're going in there with someone else in there with you. You know, it's not just you fighting in there. It's hard to explain, you know, but the people that have done it, they'll know the feeling.
Absolutely. So, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure about this, but with the Cage Warriors, is it 2 or 3 times you have to defend the belt before you get it? But I saw a picture somewhere there, you've actually got the belt for keeps.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that.
So, with Cage Warriors, you have to defend the belt 3 times to officially keep it. You know, I defended it twice, and then the UFC came, so I had to hand it back, which I was gutted about. You know, I honestly was gutted about that. My coach, Brad Pickett, he, as a surprise for my birthday, got a replica made up. So, you know, I was really happy that he'd done that, because I was gutted that, you know, I'd worked so hard to get that title, and you know, to have it not taken away, which I think is unfair.
It's a little bit. I mean, it's a brutal sport. You know, you become champion. You should get a title to keep. It's very much like in British title in boxing. You have to defend it 3 times before you can. But that's nice that you managed to keep it.
Yeah.
So after that, the big one, UFC. Talk to me how that happened, signing for UFC.
Well, if I'm honest, after that fight, you know, I knew that it was inevitable, it was coming. There was a Liverpool show, I think, 8 weeks after that fight, so I thought I'd be on that. You know, I came out of that fight unscratched, unhurt. My weight was already low, so I thought,
the Darren Till fight?
Yeah, I thought when Darren Till's fighting in Liverpool, 8 weeks, I'll be on that. But funny enough, it ended up being the week after that in New York. You know, they text my manager rang me, said the UFC will sign you. You know, 9 weeks against Johnny Eduardo, who was ranked, fight before the one I had with him, he was ranked 10th in the world. So they weren't giving me no easy debut. But you know, I was buzzing to get in there and get the job done. And you know, again, that fight took a bit of damage in it, but that's not what I want. But I want to put on a show for people as well sometimes. You know. Yeah,
the first round you had like a bit of a busted nose. It looked like it was troubling you a bit, but then you came through it. And what have you, and it was just talk to me about the whole experience of coming out, being introduced as a UFC fighter. What was that like?
It's very weird, but it felt right at the same time. It almost feels like you're in a game. Seeing the the UFC staff, the UFC gloves, that sort of thing. It's this weird feeling, but it's a good one, obviously. And then to go in there, get the win and get the bonus, I was...
yeah, you got the $50,000 bonus, yeah.
I was sitting in bed that night with concussion, a broken nose, and my eye was about out here. I remember sitting in bed, half feeling like I was about to die. And we was watching just to get the replay of my fight, and next thing it come up with the performance, the night's winners, and it had me next to 50 Gs, and me and my dad just jump up screaming. And then I was half like being sick at the same time, but it definitely helped with the concussion.
What was like leading up to the fight, like the fight week, the weigh-ins and stuff? Was that a lot different from what you're used to? Obviously, you had the press coverage. I mean, UFC is ridiculously big.
This show ended up being quite a small show. It wasn't a huge one. We didn't actually do live.
It was on Fox, wasn't it?
Yeah. We ended up not even doing the public weigh-ins. It just had the cameras there and whatnot. So to be honest, it was quite laid back, quite chilled out one, which is perfect for a debut. Don't get me wrong, I do like doing all the media stuff and being busy on fight week, but to be able to go out there, travel there, and pretty much all I had to do was chill out, make weight, sign a few things, and then fight. That was kind of, I think, a blessing, really, to have that as a debut.
What was Dana White like?
Didn't meet him.
Oh, you didn't get
to meet him, no. So.
Have you actually had any contact with Dana at all?
No, not personally. I got an email, but it was just his signature on the bottom. But obviously someone else must have printed it saying, congratulations on your debut, what a fight, blah blah blah, signed Dana White, and I was quite chuffed with that. But I know that he wasn't even sending
that will come, I suppose. Just go back about your trainer, Brad Pickett. How did that come about? You connected with Brad?
It's quite a weird one actually, because I was watching him before I even was training. I remember seeing him in Kingston once, and I said to my girlfriend at the time, "That's Brad Pickett." And she was like, "Who's Brad Pickett?" And I said, "Right, whatever." And I just went, "Brad," and he looked at me, and I just went, "Way," like that. And now I'm pretty much, the guy is like a brother to me. I was introduced to him by a training partner. We just got up for some sparring, and he brought him along with him. And Brad then moved to Malden, which is 5 minutes from my house. He said to me at the sparring, he said, if you ever want to come team time with me, you can more than welcome to jump in the car. So literally jumping in the car with him, spending 3 hours a day just in the car to training and back, and the rest is history. And now I'm proud to say that he's one of my head coaches.
So you're based, you do most of your training here now, don't you? Raptors do?
Raptors in Sutton, and then I have all my sparring and main training in Team Titan, which is North London.
Right.
Bit of a journey.
Obviously I've seen you do a bit of work with Angel, big shout out to Angel, and obviously waiting for Raptors, but how do you enjoy having a mix a couple of gyms to go to?
Yeah, so Raptors for me is 5 minutes from my house. And I've come down here a lot, I do some pads with my dad here and hit the bags, that sort of thing, and use the facility. And then I've been seeing Angel in here with Isaac Chamberlain, and putting the work in, and he said to me one day, do you want to do a bit of pads? And now I'm training with him twice a week, and I feel like my hands have
I saw you this
definitely
morning.
got a lot more sharp since working with him. It's a blessing, again I say I'm spoiled with coaches. I wanted to work on my boxing, and I think one of the best boxing coaches is now around the corner for me.
Well, listen, I know you've got to go. I've just got a couple of quick fire questions at you before we let you go. So if I just, here we go. Okay, so quickly, how hard do you find it cutting weight?
The worst bit, that's the fight.
Who would you like to fight next if you had any choice?
Chito Vera.
We've already answered that one. Okay, so what do you do in your downtime outside of training and what have you?
If I can, eat. I literally just go out for meals with my girlfriend, go meet my friends. I'm not a big drinker, so I like to eat my food. And just playing sports, really. I just like whatever physically I can do, football, this, that's, you count me in.
Okay, favourite all-time UFC fighter and why?
McGregor, because he's the only fighter that I'd watch a press conference for.
My next question, who's going to win tonight? Khabib, Conor?
I think McGregor, but I can see it going either way, and whatever way it goes, I think it's going to be one-sided. I think McGregor's either going to go in there, put him out in the first or second round, or Khabib's going to take him down and for 5 rounds just dominate him.
Cool. thank you so much for talking to grassroots boxing, and hopefully we'll catch up with you again soon.
Wicked, thank you.